the marriage of my family is one thing that people are worried about, right? Okay, so this is not what's going to happen. I'm going to talk about, first of all, I want to welcome everyone to another session of Guidance for the Soul Live. And here's what I'm going to talk about. There are people in my family who are thinking that these visions are just for them. I am broadcasting live on 3 different avenues, right? And what I wanted to discuss was basically the nature of who I am as a soul and why am I here? Why am I on right now? As I was going through part of my day, the vision of a soul of another celebrity came through. And in essence, is that my, cue to get on the camera? No. But in essence, I was going to do a private session for myself, in essence, to see what kind of value system, right? Does this soul hold water, right? I'm trying to break through those visions of separation that we often hold in our hearts and minds here in this country, right? It's a global phenomenon. We know that vision. So in essence, I may not bring through that vision of celebrity. I'm not channeling their vision. It's the nature of guidance about it. So in essence, my heart goes out to those souls who are feeling the pricks of nature, right? This is someone that's being called out, right? People are lobbing names at people. And so this would be what some would say are lower level understandings. Was that what was coming through? No. What I was doing in that vision was talking through a vision of love with the soul of someone else who in this plane of understanding is labeled one by someone I know, because in essence, their vision is that soul is so aligned with another identity or another party that somehow their vision is not, worthy of exploration. Okay? So the vision of soul would be, I get it. You're a celebrity. What? Do you deserve the vision of love that everyone else? We've already talked about that vision, right? People are lobbing names at people. And in my vision of love, as I am, I teach my children not to do that vision. I don't see the benefit of it. I see that as basically a bullying tactic that people use. Now, there's a difference between calling people a name like, a prick, versus you are now labeling someone an anarchist, because that's the view that was starting to come through. How many people feel like they need to be in that vision of anarchy? That's where a lot of people are going in their mindsets without even realizing that they're taking those steps to... It's like the higher level understanding is some people are here to show us those visions of what an anarchist look like. And now we're on the stage, right? How many people say, oh, I call people names all the time? Those visions of the language in life, which I will be bringing forth in another video that is more respectful to the victims of those souls who, in essence, are still alive on this plane. So my vision is not ever to try and deny the visions of soul work, but in essence, I also had to place my boundaries down for those visions of those who are here. Okay, so the higher level understanding is that the majority of souls still feel the mindset of I am a victim of my country's vision. Okay, my country's vision is that all there is? No. So this could be one of those sessions where I could go to those people and say, if you want a higher level understanding of your soul, your own vision, set up a session with me. You can find me at my website, right? BrendaGervais.com. That vision may or may not be around in essence, if I deem that that name needs to be changed at some point. But in essence, the majority of people who are on that vision of, I don't like the vision of her, versus the actual messages of higher wisdom that come through, that bring through future. So we're going to talk about the nature of, I don't like the vision of future that Brenda is bringing through, versus, let me show you where I was in past. And as far as where those messages come from, how they get here, and what's the intention of bringing through those visions. It is not a better than soul. It is about understanding the mindset of those visions, right? Do we need to understand the mindset of people who are out to kill people, right? Just because they're aligned with a certain philosophy and their mindset about what is or isn't happening in this country or in the world, because we have these visions all over the place. Most people will say, I'm not here to do the vision of country. I want here, it's like, this is the nature though. This is why those visions of global expansion are very hard for some people to hear, because they don't want to think about how much they really are in the vision of global expansion. This is the human consciousness explored. Okay, you are not your own mountain, right? Many do not traverse this view, right, of I am of lone wolf, right? Some people do. They go to the outer edges of society. They, express themselves as the mighty ones, right? How many people are now being lobbed into that group? My philosophy was I wanted tax breaks. Now I'm being labeled as an anarchist, right? How many people in that group, how many of you could have seen yourself doing the destruction, right? And this isn't about being bad or good. Okay, this is about, let's try to understand. Now, many will come through in the vision of, I'm a psychologist. I can, tell you all kinds of stuff about the mental mindset of what that person was doing. What about when we go to the mindset of Pelosi and what her vision is? See, Brenda's getting predictions about the future again. Okay, and in essence, it's not about aligning with somebody, but in her vision, she was like, the woman is unhinged. That's what some people are saying, right? How many people don't realize they aligned with those souls who in most cases are the ones that would be labeled that vision at this point? Right? There's groups on both sides that would go to that level of understanding of I am of anarchy. Okay, and I enjoy causing the destruction in this country or in other places, right, of the world, right? And anarchies of, this nation at this point. That's why you have the split in the Republican Party. That vision that we brought through, it was months and months ago. It was on its way a long time ago within the party of Trump. It has been for years, to be honest. Once you get to the level of understanding his soul, his alignment was always within the mindset of dictator. And in essence, that vision of it doesn't align with the value system that those presidents of past came into this vision of soul for. Okay? So the celebrities can have all the opinions they want, right? So I'm going to tell you the name of the soul who I heard from, Sam Elliott, right? What does his opinion hold versus that of a former president of the Republican Party, who many in their visions would have said, that's my president, right? And now you're aligning with someone who goes actually counterintuitive to those values of Republican. And this isn't a calling out, but it's an honest assessment. Why am I voting the way that I'm voting? And most people will start to see it's not about trying to encourage people to choose better. There is no better than. This is where we go. This is why we lost the election. The discord and the catastrophe thinking that the Republican Party is planting seeds of catastrophe. Okay? Their vision is so out of sync with the reality of what we are trying to work with, which is, I'm letting the anarchists speak for me. That's the people in Congress. The fear in their minds over those who are willing to kill is now in the mindsets of who they are, right? It used to be, I just don't want Trump taking away my, electability. At this point, we have members of Congress fearful for their lives because the man who identifies as Trump, right? He's not a man. He's an ego construct in his mind for the most part. And when we say that, people aren't going to understand that nature of, people are going to say this doesn't make sense. Okay, when you go to the soul level understanding, you start to lose a lot of that vision of I'm man or woman. Okay, so this is from the soul level understanding of his soul, right? So did he embody his soul? No. But in essence, it's that over-identification with a certain idea about who I am. Okay? That's the nature of what ego can do. It can overtake the system. Now, many of these souls who, in essence, would be, dictating to other, souls. Let's think about the visions, right? I'm not telling you not to buy into the vision of anarchy. If that's where you feel like this vision is going, right? It's not. Okay, but those souls who could have prevented it, they are fearful. So they create from a place of fear in their minds. They're trying to hold the party together, but in essence, they're fearful of the fringe members of society because those souls will go to the ends of the earth to get their message across. How many people in that crowd were still in the mindset of protest, not murder? This was a post that I had, right? How many of those people still had it in their mind we're going to lay bombs around the Capitol? So is it our responsibility as a nation to condemn those visions, right? Or do we look inside and say, what did I do to create that vision? Did I stand up to those who applauded in their minds that vision? Right? And how many on the other side are saying, thank you, this shows me I'm right in my evaluation about those people on the other side of the aisle? It could be any which way. Okay, we have fringe movements all over the country, all over the world. And it's not to demean their visions. Their souls would come through very supportive and understanding of their souls. But those aren't going to be the kinds of people that necessarily open up to the nature of their hearts, right? See, I'm in my mind when I do that vision of ego construct, right? What would a soul level understanding say about the Jesus people who are looking at that vision and taking, pride in that? Right? Most people don't. The majority of those of faith, right? The nature of faith in this country needs to be looked at very carefully. Which faith, right? Some will say the writing's on the wall with that one. Most people understand their hearts are not in that vision of love. So it's about looking inside and saying, is my honor on the line? Right? How many people hold themselves up to a vision of love and charity? That's where our vision goes, right? So in essence, how do we as souls create a better future for our country, right? Or even the world. But even if we could get to our country, how do we show the country how we can be better than what we see playing out on the screen? Unless your vision is, I need to demolish the Capitol to get my point across. This is the nature of many who are in the mindset of revolution. You're going to see your visions go down in the idea of what that means. You're creating from a lower vibration of understanding. Okay? So your vision, while it would be valid for you, and your soul may or may not say that's not the place for you, depending on where you want to end up in your hearts. Do you want to end up in the heart-centered souls of love? So in essence, I was hearing from a soul who says, I still align with my party, but I just don't feel like these souls really had, a chance to say their piece. What is it that they are so worried about? Right? They're disenfranchised, right? Did they lose their houses? Did they lose their jobs? Many of these people, and this is why we have to look in and see, do I align with people? Do I look like this? Am I the CEO or the, manager of a company who's going to go out and get aligned with a group of people who I don't really know, right? But that's the nature of protest. So while it's like the intentions of many were not of complete disruption of the service, right? It was planned. Okay? However many people want to deny their vision of enjoyment of that scene, right? How many people are clapping because they know inside they enjoy watching the destruction of government? Do you dishonor the vision of uniting our souls as one? You see, many aren't in the vision of soul work. Many are in the vision of, I just want my president to be able to do what he needs to do for us. So in essence, it is of a, I'm a sore loser. How many people would have assumed that the Capitol would have been overrun, right, had Biden not won? Would we be, there are fringe people who, Brenda gets a lot of visions, people. It's not going to be pleasant. Okay? But in essence, the future was already foretold based on the ideas of where Trump and his party lie in the moment. Their vision of party has been disrupted. That's why it's not a unified vision. It wasn't meant to be in that vision of 4 more years. The potential was there, but the values that were created in the mindsets of all souls did not align with that predictive quality. You cannot predict future visions based on 2 or 3 people. So it doesn't matter if some soul named Trump claims that his vision is of the highest. He doesn't realize he's creating with everyone around him, right? How many of those senators and congressmen actually don't like the man, right? I'm only there because if I don't say something, he will attack me and his base will come after me. Right? How many of us would do that? Right? Now, let's look at the problems on the other side, right, of the aisle. How many of them are trying to do their best, right? We have a nation divided in essence, right? Not even close. The majority of the people fall in the middle typically and would rather see a uniting of visions where we could come together, work together, and try and actually get some work done in this country that's beneficial for a lot of us, right? Versus a few, right? And that's the nature of it. The majority of us don't hold that kind of hatred in our hearts. Almost none of us do. Okay? What we see playing out on the screens are often those, like representative of the fringe minority, right? What happens is when the majority or the minority starts to become the norm. You want to stop, drop, and roll. So anyways, we're talking about firefighters. So I was hearing from the firefighters too. In essence, we have people who are so identified with their party now, they won't even stop to help anyone if they know that person is of a certain mindset. And I want you to think about what that does to certain people. Right? Am I identified with my party so much, right? And this is not about a lecture, but it's about an understanding of the nature of political ideology in essence. Can we learn something from our ideas of it? Does it serve a purpose? Well, in essence, it does, right? This is the rule of the land. We have to live by those laws, right? Unless they're not convenient for me, right? How many people want to know what laws were broken and which ones we can, shove aside? We don't need those laws because they don't, vibrate in the beauty of who I am as a soul. I've determined myself better than, Nixon? Do you want to hear from the soul of Nixon about his interpretation of events? And what level of understanding does Nixon get to come through and say, I was dishonored by my party today? That was his vision in the moment. And in essence, most would say, yeah, we would have thought Nixon would have been the worst that, could have happened, right? I was too worried about my own electability to care about the laws in which I knew I was breaking. The Christ-centered soul of Nixon would have said, I imbibed upon that vision of soul, and I said, I will honor my heart. I had to forgive myself in many ways in order to break free of the guilt and the lobbing of names that was thrown at me. Okay. And in essence, that's his soul's vision of working through the vision of accountability, right? I held my head up as much as I could as his soul. I would have given him a different mode of operation though. I was undercover. I am undercover at some point. So this isn't about telling people that they're bad or good. It's about understanding. But how many people are in that vision of, well, we understand, right? But we don't understand how we're getting to this point. Are we just recreating things from past? Right? People are calling people names whether or not they actually know what they are or not. Okay? And that's the nature of many. It's not about trying to hold us up to some kind of level that we can't achieve. Can we achieve the beauty of uniting our hearts together? In a vision of let's forgive our hearts for those thoughts of destruction that we may have had in that vision. Let's create a better future, right? How do we do that if so many are still in the vision of I want to destroy the country? They're not the majority. But in essence, we have to have those visions sometimes shown to us to let us know where we are headed in essence, right? Not even close. How many people want to lay their lives on the line against the United States military? How many people are in that vision of, I honor the military? Are they all going to sit there and put down their arms, embrace and hug? Right? These are the paramilitary souls, right? They want to take up arms against the military of the United States, right? How many people know that vision? Right? And what does that say? It says they're in that mindset of, I need a new leader. They feel they know what's best for the whole country based on some person's information, usually on a website, right? They're very enlightened about the laws for the most part, right? But yet it's only certain ones that they will honor. And I could go to those founding fathers about which members want to talk about going toe-to-toe on the Constitution and who's actually, well, the word was going to say, we're going to say, let's just say they're not actually imbibing upon that vision of looking at the whole document and all of those visions of love that come through there. They cherry pick which ones they want to fight for. End of story. So those of you who are so involved in the vision of Constitution, right? We can see this on both sides because in essence, we already have the vision of censorship happening in various ways. The idea is that then it's like the freedom of the press, right? We can talk about that. Let's talk about the issues that people are disgruntled. They're like, my visions aren't being brought through. Are they based in fact? Right? It doesn't matter, right? We can have the opinions, everyone's allowed their freedom of speech, right? We can't go against that vision. What we do have are laws that forbid us from doing certain things. And inciting violence is one of those things because in essence, it's like you cannot yell fire in a theater if there is not one, right? Those visions of my speech is limited, or it may not be against the law, but it can cause me some consequences. Okay, and that's what many are finding. I'm the freedom fighter of the world, right? Well, my boss doesn't like what I have to say, and he has the ability to fire me at will. Right? We have to think about those visions, right? And others will say, I'm going to hold myself to a higher honoring. It's like an honoring of her heart, right? I might not like what people say, right? Do we fact check our sources, right? How many people want to know what it's like to bring through the future and have people disregard it because it doesn't align with their mental constructs of what a constitutional amendment is? Right? How many people say, I'm willing to change the Constitution now? We don't need to have that freedom of the press, right? So you see, in essence, the majority of people are going to assume that the souls who don't realize they're at the beck and call of the companies, right? They're private enterprise. Now, in essence, if you are able to connect to the board members, right, or to the shareholders, do you invest in those companies? Do your protest. Don't be beholden to those companies, right? Am I encouraging that? No way, no how. It's not about a personal agenda. I don't have any visions of pro anybody, right? I'm pro truth. That's me. I'm always asking for, give me the facts. Give me the honest assessment of where we are and where we go. Okay. Now, Sam Elliott was an honorary spokesman for that party. And in essence, he is on the line. I will die for this country in his mind, right? Does he align with those who would kill other members of society? Now, in essence, many would say this is for his soul. Does he align with those views of anarchy? Right? It's not a question of if, it's a matter of why. Why am I addressing the world in a way that says I have to go to extremes in order to get my point heard? What point was it that you were trying to get put forth? And if it is about the idea of elections, Unfortunately, my friends, you have misaligned with the facts. Okay, you're not aligned with the facts of what states can and can't do. Okay, you have to be aligned with research on the states' rights. Okay? And if you understood that, you would understand that the power of the people was heard when each state decided for itself to certify its election. So by going after the people in Congress, in essence, you deny the vision of hope for the states to ever be what? Trusted again? How many people go to their own state and say, how is it my state elects its members? That's what you need to be looking at. Okay? And this is not to deny people the beauty of their expression. Sam Elliott may or may not decide to vocalize his opinion about his views at some point. His vision was, I would die for my country, right? At what point do we start to wonder, what are we fighting for? Okay, most people don't have the vision of I'm fighting for my country. Okay, most are in the message of soul, which would be in alignment with the idea of I'm fearful of something. Okay, so that's the nature of the vibration of the Republican Party at this moment. If you're in a certain viewpoint of it, not everyone, a lot of people are just doing their business, but there is a lot of that mode of war or of fight, right? I've got to fight for my freedoms. You need to look at whether or not your freedoms were actually tread upon. Just because you don't like it's like the outcome of an election. Do you give up the vision of love so that you can have what? Another 4-year president? Versus the freedoms of the states to certify their own votes. You don't like the way that Texas certifies its votes? So what, you get to go over there and beat up on those people because they voted a certain way? They got the people out to vote that wanted to vote. So this is just an FYI about those who think they have more knowledge. Okay? People are taking it out on people that don't have a say in what the states do. Those are the people of the state. So if you're mad about Georgia, right? Are you going to go march into Georgia and start laying blame on the people that decided to vote? Right? How many people think that they know better than those that actually have the wisdom and knowledge of their jobs? We're talking about people who were actually in the party, who wanted to see the outcome, a different outcome. And it's still not trusted, okay? Because we know there's all kinds of conspiracy theories. And we're not denying the vision of beauty for any soul. You can believe whatever you want to believe. But in essence, the value of a political vision is that idea that we still hold love in our hearts for those souls, right? Who honor their hearts as I'm a part of that party and I will die for it. That's where some of these people go. Many, though, are in the vision of I must change it's like they're going to be in hiding. A lot of people there, in essence, are just, they're just freedom fighters in their minds. And they would be honored by their souls. And when people say, what does that mean to be honored by your soul? If you have a soul session, you know what it means. Your soul may come down on you, right? No, it's not about you're treated with respect and love. Let's put it that way. Okay. And so it's not to dissuade anybody from believing a certain way. It's about understanding where are we and why are we here? What did we get from this video? I'm being honored by his soul for doing the work that needs to be done. We need to understand why people are feeling so, lost, right? Why are people lost? I got caught up in the moment for many, okay? And some there actually assumed they were there for peace. Believe it or not, or that was their intent. They did not intend for people to die. That's a lot of people. Many, though, were very much aware of what was going on. And those visions that Brenda holds so dear about freedom of speech indeed has its limitations, and people need to understand what those limitations are. Please follow the laws, people, when you go to your rallies. Know what you are indeed looking for in an outcome. Okay? Am I here to defend the Constitution? Then try to think about it as a whole versus I'm just worried about my weapon, right? Or my speech. Those are two that are often carried, right? People carry the torch for those souls, right? Not even understanding the vision of what that document means. In essence, it's a whole body of knowledge to be explored. Okay? And we want to honor those that actually do the work. Okay? But in essence, and we all usually get, a vision of it when we're in, high school, right? Junior high, high school, whatnot. College level understanding is where the majority of people will start to dig deeper into that vision of the, institutions, right? So a lot of people don't even trust the society in which we operate at this point, right? We have so many that are saying that, well, the bombers have their own vision. I'm not going to... The bombers' souls would say a message of love, but it would also be one of regret. I now am labeled a bomber, right? Those souls are so identified with that vision for many, it becomes a lifelong passion of theirs to be seen in that vision. Others hold regret because they are now, it's like under investigation for collusion in the bombing of the Capitol. Okay. And Brenda was bringing forth that vision of Oklahoma City. And before it happened, it wasn't before it happened, it was after. But in essence, it's that kind of mindset, right? I'm against my government. That's the nature of those in some of those visions. Whereas a lot of people are like, I'm not against government. I just wanted my governmental representatives to be the one to rule the roost. Right? And we understand that. Everyone is very much in alignment with, I need my agenda addressed. Right? I want my agenda addressed. Okay? And we have to look at that and go, who is fighting for what? And who is aligned with who? And who's going to do the best job? And that's where it can be a little tricky. You see, there are those souls on the other side that would honor that vision and say, yeah, I think I understand. Okay? It's not about saying, I love you for who you are. That's the majority of people. It's about understanding. What do we do when we're a child and we lose? Right? And I know this is going to be one of those things that people aren't going to want to understand, but that's the nature of soul. In essence, your soul will often treat you with the loving guidance of childhood, right? How do we get over our losses, right? In a way in which we can then hopefully come together and say, let's work together. Aren't we trying to teach our children, to kind of come together, and to build a better future, right? Or do we teach them, to just fight until there's no more fight until, in ya, right? That doesn't ring true for a lot of people. Usually in this country, we try to, come to an understanding of working together. Think about your careers, right? The teamwork, or is it a dog eat dog world, right? I just fight for myself. There's all kinds of souls here, right? We have to think about what kind of person are we aligning with? Is it, all for one and one for all? Or is it just, my agenda is the one that matters and that's how I vote? Right? Do we want to do better as a whole, or do we want to divide ourselves and conquer what? The vision of victory for some? We're all in this together, whether we want to be or not. There is no winning when you have war. In the country especially. Believe me, I know that vision, right? How many people want to know what those visions of soldiers were, right? It's not about the soldiers, but they're the biggest losers of all, right? I fought this fight. Did I align with the right side? Does it matter when you're a soul? Right? Did you play your part in the play? And when we say it's not important to be, we don't mean it in that degrading way that some will say, like that's their vision. They're beautiful, right? They defend us, right? So it's not about that. But at a certain point, many understand they're more than who they are in this world. You're not just a soldier. Some will identify as that, but you're a father, a mother as well, honoring those female soldiers, right? How many of them would say, I'm going to disarm myself and go fight, the revolution? Is that what people are banking on? Most of them identify with, I'm just like everybody else. I want my children to be in peace. Aren't we in that vision of let's try and do this peacefully? And if we can't get in that mindset of let's try to create from a higher vibration of love, what are we even doing here? Right? Because that's the nature of it. So that's the nature of many. So there are many visions of love of celebrity. Whether or not they agree with who I am is no consequence to me. Right? I don't care if people understand why I have to be more like balanced in the vision. People don't understand. I come through with their higher visions of love and that understanding. And people will often say, oh, they're identified as an ego on the other side. That was one of the things that I was trying to figure out. Because I was hearing from those souls who are still here as well. Okay, this is the nature of soul level understanding. Okay, I don't just hear from those who have passed. I'm not of a mediumship. I don't demean that vision. I understand it. What I want to do is to let people know there are various fields of understanding that even I don't even have access to at this point. Okay? So I'm not the one for you if you still just want to hear from your mother or father. Some people just want to hear from their mother or their father. Right? And that's their vision. I just need to know I'm okay. Right? I'm going to be, planting those seeds of love for all souls and letting you know you will address those visions of love for the family members as well. Do they still identify with their party when they pass? How many people are going to start to open up to that idea of What am I creating? I want to go to heaven and, meet my parents or my family members so much. Am I going to be taking my values with me? Do you take your political identification with you when you pass? Right? That's a good one. Those questions, they start to open us up, right? How many people are just trying to open up to the beauty of who they are, right? Is my life meant to be all about politics? No. I could bring about the wisdom of religion, right? Or health, safety, finance, right? Relationships. What we have is a cornucopia. The vision of the Thanksgiving prayer should be brought out again, right? In essence, it is part of the wisdom of what is needed in the moment. So I will give you that vision from it's like the viewpoint of a soldier in that Revolutionary War era, right? When Brenda states, right, this is not her soul's vision of hatred. For those of you who are getting triggered in your mind, you will be loved forever for participating in the view of love. Okay? So at this point, I do want to kind of say, beautiful people approach me and say, am I going to be cast aside if I state my opinion? You will never be cast aside for holding an opinion. It is something we all do. But that is where people go if they create from that vision of I'm fearful. Okay? People have the beauty of having their opinions. But in essence, many are starting to understand the vision of I have to hide who I am. And we don't want people to have to hide. Okay? We're not here to sequester people either. The juries are still out on who Sam, there's a vision of someone who is going to come through with a strong message for his party about opening up to who we are, right? Now, I want to thank all of you who decide to watch this. It is a little lengthy, I understand. It was deemed inappropriate for some people. They want to be more on the spiritual enlightenment path. And I will say I can honor that vision of it. We will go more into the understanding of soul level understanding and the soul embodiment kind of guidance for the soul. This was more in alignment with an impromptu session based on a message that I received. And it was not one of those visions of higher tones. So it was not of that vision of prediction. Okay. And I have a lot of work to do. So I want to say thank you again. Honor your hearts and your minds. Honor the vision of soul in your hearts. Try to connect to your hearts. Always, if you can. And say thank you for the vision of love. Your soul is always with you. Always guiding you. Right? Honor that vision. Ask to be guided by your soul if you're in that vision of it. Take care. Have a great day.